Hello everyone, my name is Ellen Akinyemi and welcome to the YouTube channel of African Research Group on Gender and Social Welfare Policies. Today's lecture will be focusing on Introduction to Gender Studies. And the aim of this lecture is to introduce us to some basic gender concepts and to ensure that at the end we are able to define the term gender and to differentiate between the term gender and sex. Please follow me as we continue. So these are the objectives. Define the term gender, know the differences between gender and sex. When we say gender and sex, do they mean the same thing? Are we talking about the same thing? Or are they different? Are we looking at different concepts here? So, but before we proceed, um, let us look at where the study of gender originated from. So I will say, what is gender study? From where has it originated? So the academic of gender study has a relatively short history. Its emergence can be dated back as recently as the late 1960s, and its development was triggered by second wave feminism through development of critique of gender inequalities in both personal relationships and in social positioning, and by drawing attention to the ways in which academic disciplines and sets of knowledge acted to exclude the experiences, interests, and identities of women. We're talking about the invisibility of women in both academics and social environments. So examples, the social sciences, especially sociology during this time, was gender blind. So we have gender blind sociology during this time because they ignored gender and men were mainly studied. The topics studied mainly were aspects of the social world, significant to men such as paid work and politics, because during this time when women were segregated to the private sector. So their rightful place are seen as home, and they're actually seen in their activities, in their roles, in their gender roles, as in their reproductive roles. So women were invisible in the academic discourse likewise, and they featured mainly in their roles as wives and mothers within societies. And these roles usually called gender reproductive roles, women reproductive roles. And that is where women were usually seen. Whenever there is a discourse about women, they talk about them as wives, as mothers, and as people that are relegated, that are segregated to the private sector. They are not seen in their role in the economic roles or in political roles, because they are not even allowed then to participate in all these sectors. And even those that participate, the history, the academic discourse are usually silent about them. And whenever there is a discourse about the contributions of women in the public sector, in these sectors, in the economic and the political sector, so they usually depict them using certain language like Iron Woman, as in the case of Margaret Thatcher. Whenever they want to talk about Margaret Thatcher, they don't usually talk about her economic contributions and political will, as in the case of claiming back Falkland Island. And let's come down to our environment. In the case of Efushetani Wura, that name alone is usually used to depict Iron Lady in Nigeria, the African environment, especially in the southwestern region, that is to depict a wicked heart, a woman that has a wicked heart, that does not forgive easily. So, and they don't usually talk about her as a woman who has a political will, as an entrepreneur, because during her own time she was a great entrepreneur. Look at the trade sector. She was a farmer, she has slaves, and she also exports her goods, her farm products outside outside Nigeria, outside the realms of our environment then, so to Port Novo and some other countries. So she was made the patron of she was made the patron of Anglican Church due to her contributions then in Ibadan. So So through the second wave feminist critique, there was increased attention to gender across several disciplines in social sciences, arts, and humanities. And this was done by filling in the gaps in knowledge about women, about women. Gaps, that is, gaps that were created by male bias, in which male are the main focus of study, the main topics in all these disciplines. So focusing on experiences significant to they started doing this by focusing on experiences that were significant to women, like the paid work. Women were also working, they also contributed both economically and politically to their societal development then. So we also look at motherhood, or they also look at male violence, because in before this period, the academic discourse was silent about all this, as if it does not exist, as if women were invisible and the experiences of women were not even brought to the limelight. It was as if all these were not existing. So, so they will also do this by contesting the hegemony of lists of great works of literature, which practically excluded women. Because then when you look at the literary works, you only see male. The names you see there were mainly males. Women were excluded, as if they don't even contribute in all these aspects. So without recourse to the social and material conditions, so that prohibited the emergence of great women writers. So they don't even look at the conditions, the both social and material ones, that prohibited the emergence of great women writers. I know that we did not have women writers all these times. We have them, but the numbers may not be as much as the males, but there is this hegemonic clout that affects the representation of women's work and the presentation of women's work, and also making it known in academic discourse and in other environments. So there was also transition from literary criticism later to developing as specialized area of academic interest. Okay, let's develop gender studies as an academic discourse, as an academic discipline to be studied. And this was also done beyond the academic, because later we had feminist politics, women's liberation. When you look at the feminist politics, please, you can go through women's suffrage to know more about it. That is gaining the rights of women to vote and be voted for, to participate in elections. So, and not just to be a passive participant rather. So, and from this also look at women also from this, women were also involved in women's liberation newsletters, conferences, and networking with like-minded thinkers that champions gender inequality, that champions the minds of of the second wave of feminists. So now let's look at the term gender. So when we say gender, what is gender? What does it denote? So gender is a socially and culturally constructed differences and relationships between men and women, boys and girls, and LGBTQ. So when we're talking about gender, we're talking about relationships between women and men that are socially constructed. Gender is not fixed. And when we say what we mean by the socially constructed differences is what gives people unequal value, that gives people unequal opportunities and life chances. So it is not inborn. We were not born with these differences. They were constructed They were constructed in our environment, both socially, religiously, and otherwise. So it is the social attributes that defines you as a male. So when you're talking about gender, what does gender mean? Gender means the social attributes that identifies you as a male. Okay, if I say I'm a male, it's not because I have breasts, I plaited my hair and all that. No, the social attributes, the that identifies me as a male, that okay, these are the social attributes of you being a male, these are the social attributes of you being a male. So yeah, we're talking about the masculinity and the femininity. So characteristics, the and feminine characteristics inherent in us as a person. And this is what identifies how women and men are expected to think in the society, in their community, wherever they belong to, even in their places of work. Okay, women, because you're a woman, you wear skirt. Because you're a woman, you wear no, you must cover your head to church. You must plait your hair because you're a woman. You do a lot of things, gowns for women and all that. So we have different clothes that are defined, that are designed for men, different clothes that are designed for women. There, because you are a man, this is the way you should talk. Because you are a woman, these are ways that that you should present yourself in a gathering at a particular place. This is your rightful place in the society because you are a man or because you're a woman. So all these, we are not talking about the biological factors that identifies us, the biological features, but we are looking at the socially constructed factors that made us to be either a man or a woman, that identifies us. So it is not, it is dependent on societal expectations, and it is relative to culture. What makes you a man in this environment may not likely make you to be a man in another environment when you get there, in another society when you get there. So okay, look at there are some cultures where they are male, what they wear is skirts. But in Africa, skirts are made for women and not for males, and not for males. So it is dependent on societal expectation. It is fluid. It is not fixed. It is not something that cannot be changed. It is subjected to change. Like okay, in Africa sector, you see that women, you don't talk when the men are talking. When you want to greet your father, you kneels. When you want to, as a female child, you kneels down. As a male, you prostrate. As a female, you put on gown and skirts. As a male, you wear trousers, agbadas, and some other clothes that are meant for male. So it is not fixed. So that does not mean that when you get to other society, they must behave in like manner, in the same way. No. So it is learned. It is not something that we are born with. Okay, according to the word of French feminist Simone de Beauvoir, she said, "We are all equal at birth." So it is when you look at the issue of gender equality and inequality, it is not inborn. When we were born, we were equal. So it is the societal expectations, the cultural values placed on us that now differentiates us, that gives us this hierarchy, that now brings about the hierarchical relationship between men and women, boys and girls, and that made us to be identified as a man in a society, as a woman, as a male, as a female. So now we'll be looking at the differences between gender and sex. Sex is biologically determined, it is fixed. While gender is socially constructed and learnt. Everything about gender, we learnt it. So, and this is one of the things that brought about the study of gender. We want to deviate from all this biological determinism. That is because you have breast, because you are the one that can be pregnant, because you menstruate, because you does this or that, then you must do this, you must do that. No. The activities that are ascribed to us as a person, that are not biologically determined, they are gender constructs. because they are socially constructed and we learnt them. So I will, for us to understand this better, let us read about some gender schema theory. And so is their sex, their physiological attributes, things that you can easily see that identify a person as a man or a woman. So their physiology is your body physiology. And thank God now we have transgenders, we have lays, we have queers and all that. So gender, there are norms and social roles. What are the societal expectations of this country, of this society, of this ethnic group? What are their social roles? How do they greet? How do they talk to themselves? Do they have different languages for men and for male and female? Do they have different ways of approaching issues of greeting one another? Sex, why sex are genital organs, gender are gender roles that are ascribed to you as a male or female, as a boy or a girl. So sex have predominant hormones, that is production of sperm, oval, lactation and estrogen. These things are not taught. We are born with it. So as a man, you know that you have all these predominant hormones in you, like the production of sperm, where males produces sperm, females produces ova, females lactate, estrogen levels that are not fixed between male and female. So we also have cultural, we have estrogen levels between male and female. So it's all these are sex, all these are sexual organs. So now we also have when you come to the aspect of gender, we have cultural division of labor. At times we call it cultural gender division of labor. Because you are a woman, you should sweep the floor. Because you are a woman, your place is in the kitchen. You have to learn, you have to have good culinary skills. And because you are a woman, the private sector is the best place for you, like gender reproductive roles, fetching of water, firewood, fuel, gas, and firewood for cooking, and taking care of the family, taking care of the elderly ones, nurturing of children and all that. So these things are not fixed. We were not born with it, it's learnt. So it's then sex is fixed while gender is dynamic. Like all these differences in cultural activities that we're talking about, the cultural division of labor, you may get to, okay, look at the Westerners and the Africans. When you get to Western countries, you see that the cultural gender division of labor between their male and female is not, the gap is not as wide as in Africa, as we have in Africa. And their women are not as relegated to the private dichotomy, the private space that is home, like the males, unlike what we have here in Africa, where the women sees their place as the home and sees their major activities as in nurturing of children, taking care of the home and more. So thank you. We'll be stopping here today. The next episode, we'll be looking at other gender concepts like gender equality, gender equity, gender roles, gender division of labor, gender analysis, gender parity. We'll be looking at all these gender lens. How do we wear a gender lens? How do we know? How do we identify that there is need for one to be gender sensitive, to know if an organization or a society or a family, or even if this place is, when you look at, okay, this is a gender issue, this organization is gender sensitive, how to always wear a gender lens wherever we go, and how to identify gender equality problems and how to address it. So we'll be looking at this in the subsequent episodes. So today I believe that we are able to understand the difference between sex and gender, and to define the term gender. When we say gender, what do we mean by gender? What does it denote? And when we say sex, what do we mean by sex? So now if I say I'm a man or I'm a woman, you should be able to know, okay, what makes me a man? What are the attributes that makes me to be a man? And what are the attributes that makes to be a woman? And which one is fixed? When you're looking at sex and gender, when you say sex roles and gender roles, no, there are different things entirely. There are different concepts entirely. Sex roles are different from gender roles, but like we've seen that sex is fixed because biologically they are biologically determined. They are your physiological attributes, and there is part of it is the genital organs and the predominant hormones, what it produces as a female, what it produces as a male. And that gender is fluid, is dynamic, is not fixed. What is culturally accepted in this environment may be a taboo in another environment. So thank you and see you in the next episode. Thank you.